Hello folks, Derek here with Roll Off Truck World, your one-stop way shop. Today, we're gonna be giving a little quick walk-around review on this awesome VOC scrubber unit, but we're also gonna be talking about the differences on a VOC scrubber unit, what it's intended for, and what the main differences are compared to a regular vacuum truck. As you can see behind me, we got a nice truck that is ready for delivery. This truck turned out awesome for our customers. Custom paint job to match their fleet. Orange fender flares. Nice looking metallic gray paint on this thing all over the tank. We matched that with our hose fender trays, and boy, this truck turned out great. Got a brand new Fruitland pump on it. Anyways, folks, the VOC, also known as a scrubber unit, is made to reduce volatile organic compounds that are released into the atmosphere. As you can see behind me, there are 3-stage tanks that are mounted behind a cab. And we're gonna go get close a little bit here and explain what all that does. But basically, the intention of this thing works just like a regular vacuum truck, all right? This is a regular vac truck. Now, this is a DOT hazmat coated application, so you can haul hazmat. The tank does tilt, does dump, has a full open rear gate, but what you're looking behind me here, behind this cab, you see a lot of different things that you might not see on a regular vac truck, and these are the scrubber units, otherwise also known as VOC trucks. Reduces the volatile organic compounds that are released into the atmosphere. So what all that does is basically, when your pump is sucking, you are putting all the stuff that is in your pump, your exhaust of your vacuum pump, whereas on a regular traditional vacuum truck, you're just gonna have this hose here. The outlet of your vacuum pump is gonna be connected to that exhaust muffler. Over here, it's not that way. It is still gonna be end up going out through the exhaust muffler, right? But it's gonna go through 3 stages, and we'll explain what those are. And so how it works is essentially, and I am going to read off a little bit here because there is some technical information that I must read so you understand the flow of the pump exhaust and how it is routed through here, because it can be confusing. However, because there are several stages, you may see a scrubber unit with 2 cyclone towers instead of 3, and that's why there are many different applications on how to scrub a product or clean the product before it is released into the atmosphere. But in this particular case, we have 3 stages. These 3 towers behind me are the scrubber units, also known as the VOC units. And I'm gonna read off of this to explain to you guys how the routing goes on all this stuff, because there are several options, several configurations. Some tanks only have 2 cyclones. This one here is 3 cyclones. So we're going to talk about how that's routed. So first, the exhaust, when you're sucking liquid or sucking anything out here, the exhaust is routed through tank number 1. The exhaust comes out of the vacuum pump and is then directed into tank number 1 or the center tank, typically, which contains liquid surfactant, okay? That will initially clean or scrub the exhaust. Then it goes into tank number 2, and it is scrubbed again through carbon. And then it is directed into tank number 3, and it's scrubbed again one more time through carbon, all in sequence. And then, after it is tested, it is released into the atmosphere. So just to debunk that a little bit, you have one carbon tank, you have a surfactant, I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right, surfactant tank, which has liquid surfactant in it. It's scrubbed again there, and then you have another carbon tank, which is scrubbed one more time, and then you have a vapor outlet and a port outlet where you actually test what you're about to release into the atmosphere to ensure that it is safe to release into the atmosphere. Come on and take a look over here at the controls that power this baby, because there are a few more components, and I'm going to show you what they are. First off, this is a Fruitland RCF 500. Well, actually, this is a 500 LUF model, brand new Fruitland vac pump. It is a hydraulic driven setup. And if you look at the routing on this here, you can see that on a traditional vac truck, this is just going to be routed to that black tank muffler out there. In this case, this is routed to these cyclones, and they are connected up top. And then it still ends up going through that exhaust after it has been cleaned, and scrubbed. Looking over here, we got our hydraulic oil cooler tank. You run this fan here to keep your hydraulic oil cool. Unlike typical vac trucks, this thing runs continuously at a refinery plant for hours and hours and hours with no stop. You need to ensure this fan is always working, otherwise your hydraulic oil will overheat, and once your hydraulic oil overheats, you will have pump failures and also will not perform as it should because the hydraulic oil is driving this hydraulic pump, which drives this vacuum pump. Enough about that. Let's talk about the controls over here. We got a lot of valves and components here. Remember, folks, this truck operates like a regular vacuum truck. You got a neutral position, a pressure, and an unload position. Regular vacuum truck, DOT vacuum truck. You got an isolation valve up top, and you got an emergency valve. If this valve pretty much closes all the air lines to the whole equipment in the case of an emergency. Your isolation valve is up top. It's basically a relief valve. All DOT codes must have it. Come on and take a look over here. Not to get too complicated, but this is where things get a little bit different. Your regular vacuum truck is probably just going to have these two levers. One of them lifts the hoist up and down, and one of them opens the full open rear gate. That's that. You got a hydraulic pressure gauge over here. That's to make sure that you know what hydraulic pressure you're running. In the case that you're ever losing pressure, then you know that something's wrong. Or if you have too much pressure, you know something is wrong. Take a look at our controls here. Here is our main switch where you run the vacuum pump. In other words, where you engage it. This will, obviously, the first thing you must do is apply your PTO inside your cap. Then you come out here, the operator comes out here and engages his vacuum pump. This flip here will engage that hydraulic motor there and will start turning your pump turning, all right? Then you got a work light switch and you got that fan cooler, which we talked about. You hear that fan? That fan cooler must always be on anytime you're gonna run this unit because you may risk overheating the fluid, the hydraulic fluid, and then that will cause serious problems. You got two vibrators here. These vibrators are for the carbon tank number one and carbon tank number one and carbon tank number two. If you take a look over here, this is a vibrator. So what it'll do is these vibrators basically are electronic and they basically shake the inside of this tank via this vibrator. This thing will vibrate and it'll shake the tank, all right? And carbon tank number two, carbon tank number one. I'm hoping you can hear that. Get a closer look here so they can see. Let me feel my hand here so you can see how this vibrates. This tank is vibrating, and what it does is shakes up the sediments of all this stuff. Remember, folks, these tanks are filled with carbon. So once you move fluid or exhaust out through these things, they can kind of get stiffened up in here. So what you'll do is when you go dump these, because you have to dump them ever so often and put new carbon in there, you're going to open this valve and you're going to release everything and you're going to shake this up so that all the stuff that is sticking on the side of the walls or in the cone here are all shaken up. All right, folks? Come on and take a look over here at what we got on our other control panel. These are the control panels that are all air valves, and they're air valves that are actuating the carbon tanks. They all have their instructions here, but in this valve here is how you engage the scrubber system. You use this to engage the scrubber system. In this valve here on the top right, you have the open carbon tank 2 only. So this valve here opens and closes the carbon tank number 2 only. Middle left opens carbon tank number 1 only, okay? So you have two options. You can open and close tank 2 independently. You can open and close tank carbon number 1 independently, or you can simply hit this one and you will open carbon tank number 1 and 2 simultaneously at the same time, okay? And then you can run in sequence 2 and then 1 with this one over here. This here is just a spare, okay? So that is kind of how this works. And if you look at over here, you will see the air lines, because these are the air lines that go into these valves that we just mentioned. And you've got them signaled here, which you can close and manually shut off each of them or give them some air. Carbon tank number 1, surfactant tank, which is your liquid surfactant tank, and then carbon tank number 2. Remember, folks, carbon tank number 1 is always on your left driver's side, surfactant tank, and then carbon tank number 2. All right, doing a little quick walk around back here. Tank is epoxy lined. You've got your rear bumper with new LED lights. Over there is your ground cable. If you look inside this tank, it's a clean tank. Back over there in the front is the flow ball. That flow ball rises and gives you the liquid level indication. Whenever the liquid is full, it'll show on the gauge on the side of the tank, which we'll show you in a bit. You got your baffle, keeps your liquid from splashing around. And then in here, you have your inlet and your riser pipe. Back here, more of the same thing that you've probably already seen on a regular vac truck. Nothing crazy. This is a DOT hazmat application. So you got dual valves for, this is your inlet and your outlet. You have dual valves, of course, because this is a DOT application. You're gonna run those in here. And basically, if you wanna open the valves, this is your intake, it opens. The truck's not on right now, so it doesn't have enough pressure, but this will go much faster up and down. And if you want to close it, that's how you do that. Here is a vacuum inches of mercury indicator, so you know the pressure that you're running, which is also one on the driver's side over there, all right? So inlet, the first valve is air activated. The second is just a regular ball valve, and it's a manual. Outlet is the same deal. The first valve is air activated, and your outlet is a manual ball valve, okay? Hose racks, LED lights up in there. You run those over in the tower. In your driver's side control panel, that's where you run that. Here's your ground cable. Ground cable, we all know it, or if we don't know it, then we now know it. You always ground yourself to the ground anytime you're working, especially with a scrubber or a VOC unit. This unit right here, most of the time, especially, and follow your company procedures and the policies of what you guys need to do, but always safe to be grounded into the ground. It creates less sparks, and if there's lightning or something going on and you're out here throwing stuff into the atmosphere, you want to make sure that you're grounded to the ground, otherwise it could be a hazard. Step ladder, catwalk, you do go up there and inspect all your top manways and your seals and make sure your hinges are all tight. That's how you do that. You got your toolbox right here, and over here you also have a foldable step ladder, which you fold and you can go ahead up there from both sides and actually start inspecting the top manways, because there is a manway on both of these 3 towers, and you must make sure that those hinges are always closed, the gaskets are fully sealed. Same thing for the top manways on that hatch over there. Anytime you're working on this thing, you got a lift cylinder here. Anytime you're ever gonna work on this thing, if you see that bar up top, that's a safety bar. You release that and you pretty much position it closer over here. That way, if you're ever gonna make some hydraulic repairs or you gotta climb under this tank for any type of repairs, you always wanna make sure that your tank is fully secure. Same thing for your back door. Never ever climb into that back door and trust it at all. Hydraulic cylinders, they can fail. Hydraulic hoses, they can snap, and you can be dead in a matter of seconds. Those are very heavy. You must ensure that that is protected, the tank is protected, and keep in mind that safety comes first anytime you're gonna touch any type of these equipments. And if you want to give it a little walk around from over here, these are the valves that we mentioned that you open from over there. This is the vibrator on carbon tank number 2. And, because we never actually mentioned it here, but you can see where this hose is coming from. It's coming from carbon tank number 2. Remember, we talked about how the exhaust comes into carbon tank number 1. There's carbon in there, it gets scrubbed. Then it gets connected into the liquid surfactant. I keep saying that kind of bad. And then it gets scrubbed again there, and then it goes into carbon tank number 2, gets scrubbed again in here because it has carbon, and then this is carbon tank number 2, and then where is it connected? To your typical exhaust muffler. And then it is released into the atmosphere. There are ports as such, ports and stuff like that, where you will do the testing or vapor testing or whatever before you actually release that into the atmosphere. Because remember, it's all being contained here until you actually allow it to be released into the atmosphere. Anyways, folks, I hope that explains how a VOC scrubber unit, which the main intention is to reduce volatile organic compounds into the atmosphere. Other than that, the truck runs and operates like a regular vacuum truck, with the addition of 3 extra cyclone towers that are essentially made to scrub. This unit, as you may see it in the street, it's known as a scrubber unit. The real technical term is a VOC vacuum truck. Nice custom paint job for the customers. We got Tommy Davis here with Jones Contractors, and he's picking up this truck and gonna drive it to Nashville, Tennessee. Henderson, Tennessee. Jones Contractors. So if you need some work, definitely give them some call, because they got a nice vacuum truck they just picked up. All right, that concludes this video. Thanks for watching our channel. www.rolofftruckworld.com, 281-864-0891. Thanks for watching.